Hello, and welcome back to Baby Elias's stories. We now return to Guards by Terry Pratchett, Part 10. Lady Ramkin, drawing herself up haughtily, was not a sight to forget, although you could try. It was like watching continental drift in reverse, as various subcontinents and islands pulled themselves together to form one massive, angry proto-woman. The broken door of the dragon house swung on its hinges. The inmates, already as highly strung as a harp on amphetamines, were going mad. Little gouts of flame burst against the metal plates as they stampeded back and forth in their pens. "What," she said, "is the meaning of this?" If a ramkin had ever been given to introspection, she'd have admitted that it wasn't a very original line. But it was handy. It did the job. The reason that clichés become clichés is that they are the hammers and screwdrivers in the toolbox of communication. The mob filled the broken doorway. Some of it was waving various sharp implements with the up and down motion proper to rioters. "Wall," said the leader. "It's the dragon, innit?" There was a chorus of muttered agreement. "What about it?" said Lady Ramkin. "Wall! It's been burning the city. They don't fly far. You got dragons here. Could be one of them, couldn't it?" "Yeah? 'S right. QED. So what we're going to do is, we're going to put him down. 'S right. Yeah. Pro bono publico." Lady Ramkin's bosom rose and fell like an empire. She reached out and grabbed the dunging fork from its hook on the wall. "One step nearer. I warn you, and you'll be sorry," she said. The leader looked beyond her to the frantic dragons. "Yeah," he said nastily. "And what'll you do, eh?" Her mouth opened and shut once or twice. "I shall summon the watch," she said at last. The threat did not have the effect she had expected. Lady Ramkin had never paid much attention to those bits of the city that didn't have scales on. "Well, that's too bad," said the leader. "That's really worrying, you know that. Makes me go all weak at the knees, that does." He extracted a lengthy cleaver from his belt. Shing! "And now you just stand aside, lady, because..." A streak of green fire blasted out of the back of the shed, passed a foot over the heads of the mob, and burned a charred rosette in the woodwork over the door. Then came a voice that was a honeyed purr of sheer deadly menace. "This is Lord Mountjoy Quickfang, Winterforth the Fourth, the hottest dragon in the city. It could burn your head clean off." Captain Vimes limped forward from the shadows. A small and extremely frightened golden dragon was clamped firmly under one arm. His other hand held it by the tail. The rioters watched it, hypnotized. "Now, I know what you're thinking," Vimes went on softly. "You're wondering, after all this excitement, Has it got enough flame left? And, I ain't so sure myself. He leaned forward, sighting between the dragon's ears, and his voice buzzed like a knife blade. What you've got to ask yourself is, am I feeling lucky? They swayed backwards as he advanced. Well, he said, are you feeling lucky? For a few moments the only sound was Lord Mountjoy Quickfang Winterforth the Fourth's stomach rumbling ominously as fuel sloshed into his flame chambers. Now, look here, said the leader, his eyes fixed hypnotically on the dragon's head. There's no call for anything like that. In fact, he might just decide to flare off all by himself, said Vimes. They have to do it to stop the gas building up. It builds up when they get nervous. And I reckon you've made them all pretty nervous now. The leader made what he hoped was a vaguely conciliatory gesture, but unfortunately did it with the hand that was still holding a knife. Drop it, said Vimes sharply, or your history. The knife clanged on the flagstones. There was a scuffle at the back of the crowd as a number of people, metaphorically speaking, were a long way away and knew nothing about it. But before the rest of you good citizens disperse quietly and go about your business, said Vimes meaningfully, I suggest you look hard at these dragons. Do any of them look 60 feet long? Would you say they've got an 80-foot wingspan? How hot do they flame, would you say? Dunno, said the leader. Vimes raised the dragon's head slightly. The leader rolled his eyes. Dunno, sir, he corrected. Do you want to find out? The leader shook his head, but he did manage to find his voice. Who are you, anyway? He said. Vimes drew himself up. Captain Vimes, City Watch, he said. This met with almost complete silence. The exception was the cheerful voice, somewhere in the back of the crowd, which said, Night shift, is it? Vimes looked down at his nightshirt, in his hurry to get off his sick bed, he'd shuffled hastily into a pair of Lady Ramkin's slippers. For the first time he saw they had pink pom-poms on them. And it was at this moment that Lord Mountjoy Quickfang Winterforth the Fourth chose to belch. It wasn't another stab of roaring fire. It was just a near invisible ball of damp flame, which rolled over the mob and singed a few eyebrows. But it definitely made an impression. Vimes rallied magnificently. They couldn't have noticed his brief moment of sheer horror. That one was just to get your attention, he said, poker-faced. The next one will be a little lower. Said the leader. Right you are. No problem. We were just going anyhow. No big dragons here, right enough. Sorry you've been troubled. Oh no, said Lady Ramkin triumphantly. You don't get away that easily. She reached up onto a shelf and produced a tin box. It had a slot in the lid. It rattled. On the side was the legend, the Sunshine Sanctuary for Sick Dragons. The initial whip round produced $4.31. After Captain Vimes gestured pointedly with the dragon, a further $25.16 were miraculously forthcoming. Then the mob fled. "We made a profit on the day anyway," said Vimes when they were alone again. "That was jolly brave of you." "Let's just hope it doesn't catch on," said Vimes, gingerly putting the exhausted dragon back in its pen. He felt quite light-headed. Once again he was aware of eyes staring fixedly at him. He glanced sideways into the long, pointed face of good boy Bindle Featherstone, rearing up in a pose best described as the last puppy in the shop. To his astonishment, he found himself reaching over and scratching it behind its ears, or at least behind the two spiky things at the sides of its head, which were presumably its ears. It responded with a strange noise that sounded like a complicated blockage in a brewery. He took his hand away hurriedly. "It's all right," said Lady Ramkin. "It's his stomach's rumbling." "That means he likes you?" To his amazement, Vimes found that he was rather pleased about this. As far as he could recall, nothing in his life before had thought him worth a burp. "I thought you were, going to get rid of him," he said. "I suppose I shall have to," she said. "You know how it is, though. They look up at you with those big, soulful eyes." There was a brief, mutual, awkward silence. "How would it be if I—" "You don't think you might like—" They stopped. "It'd be the least I could do," said Lady Ramkin. "But you're already giving us the new headquarters and everything." "That was simply my duty as a good citizen," said Lady Ramkin. "Please accept good boy as a friend." Vimes felt that he was being inched out over a very deep chasm on a very thin plank. "I don't even know what they eat," he said. "They're omnivores, actually," she said. "They eat everything except metal and ingenious rocks. You can't be finicky, you see, when you evolve in a swamp." "But doesn't he need to be taken for walks or flights or whatever?" "He seems to sleep most of the time." She scratched the ugly thing on top of its scaly head. "He's the most relaxed dragon I've ever bred, I must say." "What about, you know?" He indicated the dunging fork.
Dunging.
Dung, the excrement of animals, manure. He indicated the dunging fork. "Well, it's mainly gas. Just keep him somewhere well ventilated." "You haven't got any valuable carpets, have you? It's best not to let them lick your face, but they can be trained to control their flame. They're very helpful for lighting fires." Good boy Bindle Featherstone curled up amidst a barrage of plumbing noises. "They've got 8 stomachs," Vines remembered. The drawings in the book had been very detailed, and there's a lot of other stuff like fractional distillation tubes and mad alchemy sets in there. No swamp dragon could ever terrorize a kingdom except by accident. Vimes wondered how many had been killed by enterprising heroes. It was terribly cruel to do something like that to creatures whose only crime was to blow themselves absent-mindedly to pieces in mid-air, which was not something any individual dragon made a habit of. It made him quite angry to think about it. A race of wittles, that's what dragons were. Born to lose, live fast, die wide. Omnivores or not, what they must really live on was their nerves, flapping apologetically through the world in mortal fear of their own digestive system. The family would be just getting over father's explosion, and some twerp in a suit of armor would come plodding into the swamp to stick a sword into a bag of guts that was only one step away from self-destruction in any case. Huh. It'd be interesting to see how the great dragon slayers of the past stood up to the big dragon. Armor? Best not to wear it. It'd all be the same in any case. And at least your ashes wouldn't come pre-packaged in their own foil. He stared and stared at the malformed little thing, and the idea that had been knocking for attention for the last few minutes finally gained entrance. Everyone in Ankh-Morpork wanted to find the dragon's lair, at least wanted to find it empty. Bits of wood on a stick wouldn't do it, he was certain. But, as they said, set a thief. He said, "Could one dragon sniff out another? I mean, follow a scent?" "Dearest Mother," wrote Carrot, "talk about a turn-up for the books. Talk about a turn-up for the books. Last night, the dragon burned up our headquarters, and lo and behold, we have been given a better one. It is in a place called Pseudopolis Yard, opposite the Opera House. Sergeant Collins said, we have gone up in the world and has told Nobby not to try to sell the furnishings. Going up in the world is a metaphor which I am learning about. It is like lying, but more decorative. There are proper carpets to spit on. Twice today, groups of people have tried to search the cellars here for the dragon. It is amazing. And digging up people's privies and poking into attics. It is like a fever. One thing is, people haven't got time for much else, and Sergeant Collins says, when you go out on your rounds and shout 12 of the clock and all's well while a dragon is melting the street, you feel a bit of a burk. I have moved out of Mrs. Palm's because there are dozens of bedrooms here. It was sad, and they made me a cake, but I think it is for the best. Although Mrs. Palm never charged me rent, which was very nice of her considering she is a widow with so many fine daughters to bring up, plus dowries, etc. I have made friends with this ape, who keeps coming round to see if we have found his book. Nobby says it is a flea-ridden moron because it won $18 off him playing Cripple Mr. Onion, which is a game of chance with cards, which I do not play. I have told Nobby about the Gambling Regulation Acts, and he said piss off, which I think is in violation of the decency ordinances of 1389, but I have decided to use my discretion. Captain Vimes is ill and is being looked after by a lady. Nobby says it is well known she is mental, but Sergeant Collins says it is just because of living in a big house with a lot of dragons, but she is worth a fortune, and well done to the captain for getting his feet under the table. I do not see what the furniture has to do with it. This morning I went for a walk with Reet and showed her many interesting examples of the ironwork to be found in the city. She said it was very interesting. She said I was quite different to anyone she's ever met. Your loving son, Carrot X. P.S. I hope Minty is keeping well. He folded the paper carefully and shoved it into the envelope. Sun's going down, said Sergeant Colin. Carrot looked up from his sealing wax. "That means it will be night soon," Colin went on accurately. "Yes, Sergeant." Colin ran a finger round his collar. His skin was impressively pink, the result of a morning scrubbing. But people were still staying at a respectful distance. Some people are born to command, some people achieve command, and others have command thrust upon them, and the sergeant was now included in this category and wasn't very happy about it. Any minute now, he knew, he was going to have to say that it was time they went out on patrol. He didn't want to go out on patrol. He wanted to find a nice sub-basement somewhere. But nobilies oblige if he was in charge. He had to do it. It wasn't the loneliness of command that was bothering him. It was the being fried alive of command that was giving him problems. He was also pretty sure that unless they came up with something about this dragon very soon, then the patrician was going to be unhappy. And when the patrician was unhappy, he became very democratic. He found intricate and painful ways of spreading that unhappiness as far as possible. Responsibility, the sergeant thought, was a terrible thing. So was being horribly tortured. As far as he could see, the two facts were rapidly heading towards one another. And thus, he was terribly relieved when a small coach pulled up outside the yard. It was very old and battered. There was a faded coat of arms on the door. Painted on the back, and rather new, was the little message: "Winnie, if you loved dragons." Out of it winced, as he got down, stepped Captain Vimes. Following him was the woman known to the sergeant as Mad Sybil Ramkin, and finally, hopping down obediently on the end of its lead, was a small. The sergeant was too nervous to take account of actual size. "Well, I'll be mogadored. They've only gone and caught it." Nobby looked up from the table in the corner, where he was continually failing to learn that it is almost impossible to play a game of skill and bluff against an opponent who smiles all the time. The librarian took advantage of the diversion to help himself to a couple of cards off the bottom of the pack. "Don't be daft. That's just a swamp dragon," said Nobby. "She's all right. It's Lady Sybil, a real lady." The other two guards turned and stared at him. This was Nobby talking. "You two can bloody well stop that," he said. "Why shouldn't I know a lady when I sees one? She give me a cup of tea in a cup fin as paper and a silver spoon in it. She give me a cup of tea in a cup fin as paper and a silver spoon in it," he said, speaking as one who had peeped over the plateau of social distinction. "And I give it back to her, so you can stop looking at me like that." "What is it you actually do on your evenings off?" said Colin. "No business of yourn." "Did you really give the spoon back?" said Carrot. "Yes, I bloody well did," said Nobby hotly. "Attention, lads," said the sergeant, flooded with relief. The other two entered the room. Vimes gave his men his usual look of resigned dismay. "My squad," he mumbled. "Fine body of men," said Lady Ramkin. "The good old rank and file, eh?" "The rank, anyway," said Vimes. Lady Ramkin beamed encouragingly. This led to a strange shuffling among the men. Sergeant Colin, by dint of some effort, managed to make his chest stick out more than his stomach. Carrot straightened up from his habitual stoop. Nobby vibrated with soldiery bearing. Hands thrust straight down by his sides, thumbs pointing sharply forward. Pigeon chest inflated so much that his feet were in danger of leaving the ground. I always think we can all sleep safer in my bed knowing that these brave men are watching over us, said Lady Ramkin, walking sedately along the rank like a treasure galleon running ahead of a mild breeze. And who is this? It is difficult for an orangutan to stand to attention. Its body can master the general idea, but its skin can't. The librarian was doing his best, however, standing in a sort of respectful heap at the end of the line and maintaining the kind of complex salute you can only achieve with a 4-foot arm. It's plain clothes, ma'am, said Nobby smartly. Special ape services. Very enterprising indeed, said Lady Ramkin. How long have you been an ape, my man? Ook! Well done. She turned to Vimes, who was definitely looking incredulous. A credit to you, she said. A fine body of men. Ook! Anthropods, corrected Lady Ramkin, with barely a break in the flow. For a moment, the rank felt as though they had just returned from single-handedly conquering a distant province. They felt, in fact, tremendously bucked up, which was how Lady Ramkin would almost certainly have put it, and which was definitely several letters of the alphabet away from how they normally felt. Even the librarian felt favoured, and for once had let the phrase "my man" pass without comment. A trickling noise and a strong chemical smell prompted them to look around. Good boy Bindle Featherstone was squatting with an air of sheepish innocence alongside what was not so much a stain on the carpet as a hole in the floor. A few wisps of smoke were curling up from the edges. Lady Ramkin sighed. Don't you worry, ma'am, volunteered Nobby cheerfully. Soon have that cleaned up. I'm afraid they're often like that when they're excited, she said. Fine specimen you got there, ma'am, Nobby went on, reveling in the newfound experience of social intercourse. It's not mine, she said. It belongs to the captain now. Or all of you, perhaps. A sort of mascot. His name is Good Boy Bindle Featherstone. Good Boy Bindle Featherstone bore up stoically under the weight of the name and sniffed a table leg. He looks more like my brother, Errol, said Nobby, playing the cheeky, chirpy, lovable city sparrow card for all it was worth. Got the same pointed nose. Excuse me for saying so, milady. Vimes looked at the creature, which was investigating its new environment, and knew that it was now irrevocably an Errol. The little dragon took an experimental bite out of the table, chewed it for a few seconds, spat it out, curled up, and went to sleep. He ain't going to set fire to anything, is he? Said the sergeant anxiously. I don't think so. He doesn't seem to have worked out what his flame ducts are for yet, said Lady Ramkin. You can't teach him anything about relaxing, though, said Vimes. Anyway, men, ook! I wasn't talking to you, sir. What's this doing here? said Sergeant Colin hurriedly. With you being away and all, and us likely to be short-handed, Carrot here says it's all according to the law, and that I swore him in, sir. The ape, sir. Sworn him in what, Sergeant? Said Vimes. As a special constable, sir, said Colin, blushing. You know, sir, sort of citizen's watch. Vimes threw up his hands. Special? Bloody unique! The librarian gave Vimes a big smile. Just temporarily, sir, for the duration, like, said Colin pleadingly. We could do with the help, sir, and, well, he's the only one who seems to like us. I think it's a frightfully good idea, said Lady Ramkin. Well done, that ape. Vimes shrugged. The world was mad enough already. What could make it worse? Okay, he said. Okay, I give in. Fine. Give him a badge. Although I'm damned if I know where he'll wear it. Fine. Yes. Why not? You all right, Captain? Said Colin, all concerned. Fine. Welcome to the new watch, snapped Vimes, striding vaguely around the room. Great. After all, we pay peanuts, don't we? So we might as well employ The sergeant's hand slapped respectfully across Vimes's mouth. Just one thing, Captain, said Colin urgently to Vimes's astonished eyes. You don't use the M word. Gets right up his nose. Gets right up his nose, sir. He can't help it. He loses all self-control. Like a red rag to a wuss name, sir. Ape is all right, sir, but not the M word. Because, sir, when he gets angry, he doesn't just go and sulk, sir, if you get my drift. He's no trouble at all apart from that, sir. All right? Just don't say monkey. Oh, shit. The brethren were nervous. He'd heard them talking. Things were moving too fast for them. He thought he'd led them into the conspiracy a bit at a time, never giving them more truth than their little brains could cope with. But he'd still overestimated them. A firm hand was needed, firm but fair. Brothers, said the Supreme Grand Master, are the cuffs of veracity duly enhanced? What? Said Brother Watchtower vaguely. Oh, the cuffs. Yeah, enhanced right. And the martlets of beckoning? Are they fittingly divested? Brother Plasterer gave a guilty start. Me? What? Oh, fine, no problem. Divested, yes. The Supreme Grand Master paused. Brothers, he said softly, we are so near. Just once more. Just a few hours. Once more, and the world is ours. Do you understand, brothers? Brother Plasterer shuffled a foot. Well, he said, I mean, of course, yes. No fears about that. Behind you 110%. He's going to say only, thought the Supreme Grand Master. Only, we, that is, all of us, we've been odd, really. You feel so different, don't you, after summoning the dragon, sort of cleaned out, said Brother Plasterer helpfully. Yes, like it's sort of... Brother Watchtower struggled with the serpents of self-expression. taking something out of you? Sucked dry, said Brother Plasterer. Yes, like he said. And it's a bit risky. Like stuff's been dragged from your actual living brain by eldritch creatures from the beyond, said Brother Plasterer. I'd have said more like a bit of a sick headache myself, said Brother Watchtower helplessly. And we was wondering, about all this stuff about cosmic balance and that, because, look what happened to poor old Dunnikin. Could be a bit of a judgment. It was just a maddened crocodile hidden in a flower bed, said the Supreme Grand Master. It could have happened to anyone. I understand your feelings, however. You do? Said Brother Watchtower. Oh, yes. They're only natural. All the greatest wizards feel a little ill at ease before undertaking a great work such as this. The brethren preened themselves. Great wizards. That's us, yeah. But in a few hours it'll be over, and I am sure that the king will reward you handsomely. The future will be glorious. This normally did the trick. It didn't appear to be working this time. But the dragon, Brother Watchtower began. There won't be any dragon. We won't need it. Look, said the Supreme Grand Master. It's quite simple. The lad will have a marvelous sword. Everyone knows kings have marvelous swords. This'd be the marvelous sword you've been telling us about, wouldn't it? This'd be the marvelous sword you've been telling us about, would it? Said Brother Plasterer. And when it touches the dragon, said the Supreme Grand Master, it'll be Foom! Yeah, they do that, said Brother Doorkeeper. My uncle kicked a swamp dragon once. He found it eating his pumpkins. Damn thing nearly took his leg off. The Supreme Grand Master sighed. A few more hours, yes, and then no more of this. The only thing he hadn't decided was whether to let them alone. Who'd believe them after all? Or send the guard to arrest them for being terminally stupid? No, he said patiently. I mean the dragon will vanish. We'll have sent it back. End of dragon. Won't people be a bit suspicious? Said Brother Plasterer. Won't they expect lumps of dragon all over the place? No, said the Supreme Grand Master triumphantly, because one touch from the sword of truth and justice will totally destroy the spawn of evil. The brethren stared at him. That's what they'll believe, anyway, he added. We can provide a bit of mystic smoke at the time. Dead easy, mystic smoke, said Brother Fingers. No bits then, said Brother Plasterer, a shade disappointed. Brother Watchtower coughed. Dunno if people will accept that, he said. Sounds a bit too neat like. Listen, snapped the Supreme Grand Master. They'll accept anything. They'll see it happen. People will be so keen to see the boy win, they won't think twice about it. Depend upon it. Now, let us commence. He concentrated. Yes, it was easier. Easier every time. He could feel the scales, feel the rage of the dragon as he reached into the place where the dragons went and took control. This was power, and it was his.